Hi, I'm Dan Maloney, Assistant Head Teacher.
And I'm Sarah Eggleton, Assistant Head Teacher. If you've tuned in to watch this video, thank you. We hope that this session is going to be really helpful in giving you information about how you can support your child after COVID school closures. We'd like to fill you in on what we're doing to ensure that your child isn't disadvantaged by their time away, and also give you some more information about how you can help your child at home.
So during the lockdown, we offered a timetable of live lessons, so we continued to make sure that we had that face-to-face contact with our students so they could continue to make progress in all of their subjects. We used Google Classroom to set our work and to mark it so that our students could get really accurate feedback to help them make that next step in their learning. We were available by email to answer their questions. We used social media to engage your child, and that was across multiple subjects. We called home to every child in school to check in and see how we could offer more support to that child. We worked really, really hard to plan for our return and make sure that this time now is as useful as it can possibly be. And we created and sent home Key Stage 3 reports so that you could track your child's progress. We asked you to send in some questions, these are just some of them, and over the course of this video, we are going to answer them for you.
So quite rightly, the first concern, the most prevalent concern that came through was, is school safe? And we'd love to assure you that we have done everything we can to make school as safe as it can be. This includes things like staggered starts and different entrances and exits to school for different year groups to reduce crowding, masks in corridors and during social time. We're using bubbles or zones in lessons to minimise contact between year groups and classes. There is hand sanitizer everywhere in the building. You can definitely find it all over the corridors in containers for everyone to use. We've given all of our students personal stationery packs so that there's a limited risk of sharing equipment. And we have increased our reporting and recording of student illness so that we are exactly sure who is presenting with what symptoms, and we can track if there are any cases.
So why have set changes taken place? So in year 7 to 9, our students are staying in one class, and that is their bubble. And we have worked really hard to make sure that we can set them as a best fit to maths, English and science. That means that our sets are much looser than they would normally be. So a top set or set 1 is not necessarily a set 1 for each individual subject. It's an overall best fit at set 1. That does mean that our classes are more mixed ability, and we have adapted our teaching to make sure that we meet the needs of every child in school.
So a key question that was asked repeatedly by the parents was, how will my child catch up on what they have missed out on? So we'd like to assure you that as well as our online offering during lockdown, we were also working so hard behind the scenes to make sure that we adapted our planning to take into account the missed curriculum content and exam requirements. We've prioritised the skills and knowledge that we know your child needs the most in order to make progress. So that's meant shuffling around our schemes of work, when we deliver what, and we're also changing how we're using assessment opportunities. So in class, we're really placing an emphasis on informal assessment and identifying the gaps and plugging them as efficiently and as quickly as we can. Home learning is absolutely crucial to this, and it is being utilised. So just because we're back in school doesn't mean that once they're home, their day is done. Home learning is an absolutely key way for your child to continue their learning, and it will be being utilised for catching up on things that they could have covered had we been in school the first time, now that they've had some teacher input, and consolidating what we've learned in lessons to embed it into long-term memory. We've also made sure that literacy is embedded in every single lesson. Vocabulary and reading, as much as they can, are included across all subjects, because we know the ability to communicate is crucial for children to be able to display the knowledge and skills that they gain across all subjects. And finally, the online lessons that we did supply during lockdown have reduced the amount of missed content. We weren't delivering just anything and everything that we could think of. We were trying really hard to deliver the bits of the curriculum that we could offer, and everything that was taught was relevant and important information.
So will there be any intervention for my child? Again, a question that came up a couple of times. First of all, our main form of intervention is we teach our kids really well. We know them, we know where their gaps are, and we deliver quality first teaching day in and day out to plug those gaps. We are looking at launching some small group interventions after half term, obviously depending on the situation. We've not gone straight in with those because we're very mindful that students have come from lockdown with a very different situation, and we want to ramp up their workload slowly so that we don't overwhelm them.
So how are things being adapted to make up for the time lost? So some things that have happened are outside of our control. So for example, you may have heard in the news discussions with Ofqual about exam changes that could take place. This information is still being confirmed, and unfortunately we don't have any control over this, not only what decisions are made, but when we receive those decisions. And as soon as we have that information, we will share it with the students and with yourselves. But please rest assured, we are, as Mr. Maloney said, really knowledgeable about our subject and about our students, and we're adapting as we go and making sure that your child will reach their potential.
So what are you doing to help my child cope with workload and stress? So as I mentioned earlier, we recognise that this is a big jump up from the learning from home. So we have the Hub team who can offer one-to-one for our students that are struggling. We've created time for social interaction, that's some downtime in the school day. The English department are offering workshops on stress and mindfulness in the lead up to the exams, because that's the time that is typically stressful, but obviously in this situation is more so than usual. We're adapting our teaching to make sure that our students recognise that these are their gaps and this is what we're doing to plug it. So our students know that we have a plan for them, we know what we're doing, and we will get them to the point that they need to be at. And we're utilising and building on prior learning, as Mrs. Eggleston said earlier. We know what our kids did online. We offered a really great provision there, and we're using what we've learned from them there to inform our teaching now.
So assessment's also a really key question, and it's particularly pertinent when considering that well-being that Mr. Maloney is talking about. So in Key Stage 3, we've done some tests that are called CAT tests and GNL tests, and these are basic skill tests that manage to identify across English, Maths and Science gaps that students might have. We've also done reading age tests, so we can identify where students might struggle to access information because of literacy barriers. However, having said that, we were really keen not to over-test. So these tests that have been done required no formal preparation or studying. It was literally just to turn up, have a go, and apply what skill and knowledge you can and what you have. And that's going to give us a baseline so that then from that we can look at, even in more detail, what skills we need to plug. We're also doing this through our teaching, using questioning and informal low-stakes quizzing to assess gaps and trying to make that as fun as we can. Across the individual subjects, so things that are not English, Maths and Science, we will not be assessing the students before October, and this is to give students time to adjust and catch up. And that'll be December for some subjects with less curriculum time. We will have formal exam weeks, as we do every year, and these will take place on the 25th of January and the 21st of June. And in that, students will be tested across every subject that they learn. In Key Stage 4, we'll be having mock exams a little bit earlier than those January dates listed there, so they'll be in December and then again in March. And as we learned from the centre assessed grades that teachers were asked to produce this year, those mock exams are an absolutely crucial piece of evidence in helping us to form our decisions should we end up in that situation again. But here's hoping that the students do get to sit their exams this year.
So how can I support my child at home? A really big one is ensuring that they do their homework. We really carefully set our homework to make sure that it's a thoughtful piece of work that is really relevant to the kid and will help them make progress. But if they don't do it, it has absolutely no impact. Homework timetables have been sent home to you via the My Ed app and are now on our school website, and that will allow you to check when your child will receive homework from each subject. It will all be set on Google Classroom, and if you signed up for the parental report, every Saturday morning you should receive a report telling you the work your child has done and the work your child has not done. It would really help if you create a set routine with your child, making sure that they're going to bed and getting enough sleep, because when students are tired, they're not going to be able to concentrate as well in school or outside of school. And ask to see your child's work. You can, when the students log on, they have a to-do list of all their homework that they need to do. And you can sit with them and ask them to show that list and work through it and have a really good conversation about their progress and about what it is that they need to do and what help they need from you to be able to achieve that homework.
There's also several other things you can do to support your child at home. A parent's job is never done, right? So we'd really, really love it if you could encourage and support reading at all ages. I know that students get into such good habits in primary school with their reading every night with parent or carer, and this is vital even later in education. If you do not have very many books at home, obviously our school library is still shut, but we're really hoping to get that out and mobile soon in a safe, COVID secure way. But Trafford Libraries run an online service, so you can download books for free and read them on an electronic device that you have, from an iPhone to a tablet. The best thing that you could do would be to read the same book as your child and chat about it with them, have a conversation around that reading. If your child really won't engage with books, it could be a blog, it could be a news article, it could be a magazine, literally anything. The more words they see, the more they take in, the better they communicate. It would also be great if you could encourage a learning routine. So for a set amount of time each day, even if homework is done, just give your child a little task that they could be completing linked to a subject that you or they are concerned about. CGP is a publisher that makes excellent workbooks for most subjects in Key Stage 3 and 4, and there are also lots of learning platforms online. And you can check our website for resources that we recommend. I think a really key thing to say is that everyone has experienced lockdown and everyone has lost the same amount of time and the same amount of learning. I think it's unlikely that one child is much further behind than another, and that seems to be playing out in the interactions that we have had with the children so far. So try not to put too much pressure on yourself or your child. Everyone's trying the best and we're going to come through it better and stronger. If there's anything else that you're not sure about, then call school and ask for help if needed, or email your child's teacher if you have a specific subject concern. So you can get in touch with us via our email addresses that are on screen now, or any other member of staff if you know the initial of their first name and their surname. Just add @stretfordhigh.com.
Thank you for listening.